Hey church, welcome back to the Just Like You podcast. You're on with Zorzi.
And MJ.
I hope you guys are doing well. As we're recording this, we're in the middle of a snowstorm.
It's worse than the polar vortex.
Apparently it's the worst snowstorm since 2018. At first I was like, no chance.
Quoted.
At first I didn't believe it, but I got off of night shift this morning and I believe it. The snow is bad. I only got stuck 3 times in the past 24 hours. Almost got into only 1 accident, so I consider that a win. MJ, how was your commute to the Rubik's this morning?
No, it was really good. I had to shovel for an hour and then drive over here. Mm-hmm. It's usually like a under 5-minute drive. It only took like 10.
That's pretty good.
But
how
double
are
the time.
Side streets?
Yeah, the side streets were crazy.
Yeah.
I took this one turn. It was literally just getting off our street. I'm like, oh, because there's cars parked on both sides.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, if I drift into this Chevy, oh man,
they're gonna be mad.
I'm just gonna walk.
Well, speaking of people with commutes, this guest walked all the way from the house to the Rubik's. Please welcome MJ's roommate.
For our 10th episode.
Dan Soppitt. Sopper.
Which camera am I looking at? Straight ahead, or is that a wide angle?
We just look at us. It's just a chit chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're okay.
Yeah. We just kind of like acknowledge the camera, like, hey, how you doing? And then we just chit chat.
Cool.
With us. How was your commute?
My commute was interesting. Like MJ's, I saw all those tire tracks, like the skid marks around that corner. Yeah, a lot of snow in my boots, but I feel like it didn't look like that deep.
Yeah, I think a lot of it got cleared, but like the morning was like wild.
Oh, the morning was awful. Yeah. A lot of the night shifters brought shovels so that just in case they had to shovel themselves out of the parking lot, which was smart. Actually really smart because I just had to be a human shovel and I just had to like clear all this.
You clawed?
Oh
yeah.
My gosh. Oh yeah. Anyways.
I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for making the treacherous journey to the Rubik's today. We appreciate it. We're excited to hear more about your story.
Yeah. First, I think we got to get into intro.
Yeah.
So we know your name. How about you give us program, year, how you serve at your region?
What region are you part of, too?
Yeah, I'm a part of the MAC region. Mm-hmm. I'm in kinesiology at MAC, currently in my first year of my master's. Mm-hmm. So I just finished my undergrad in Kin. Mm-hmm. I serve on production mostly. I do a lot of sound stuff, and I serve a little bit with the videography team.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. What's the focus of your master's? Can you tell people a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'm researching concussion and potential treatments for concussion. So I work in a lab that uses a technique called transcranial magnetic stimulation to non-invasively activate the brain. And so we're trying to use that to treat concussion.
Some big words.
Yeah.
So he's smart.
That's very cool. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. We're excited to hear more about you and your story. And one thing that, like, from previous conversations we do know about you that people might not know is you're a camp guy. And so for our icebreaker, we'll just get to know a little snippet into your life. First off, what camp did you go to?
I went to Camp Kakwa.
Where is it?
It's like an hour north of Huntsville, close to a town called Magnetawan.
That's far.
It's pretty far.
Yeah.
It's like...
How many years did you go?
Good 5-hour drive. My family has been going since we came to Canada, so I went for maybe 15 years until I became a counselor, and then a few years after that.
Wow.
How long do
Okay.
you stay? Is it like when you go as a camper, it's like a week, right?
Yeah. So if you're a kids camper, it would be just a week. And then they have kids camp for the first half and then family camp. And so my family would always go to the family camp. And then when I started becoming a counselor, I would stay for like the month.
Wow.
Right.
But we would just have new kids each week.
Nice. Was there anything you were known for as a counselor?
What was I known for? I was the ropes guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was always like doing the rope stuff. I eventually it got to the point where they appointed me ropes coordinator.
Like you have like the belaying.
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to I would do those and the rescue courses and stuff.
Cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Would you like train the other leaders in how to belay?
I didn't
too?
get to that point because I stopped going when I was 17 or 18, and you had to be above 18 to like get the full qualification.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Yeah, you're the ropes guy.
The ropes guy.
Mm-hmm. They called you Uncle Dan.
They called me Uncle Dan. Yeah. They called all of the counselors Uncle and Aunt. There'd be Aunt Jordan and Uncle MJ.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Very cool. That sounds fun. How many campers would you guys have?
Maybe around 100 a week.
Nice.
It was okay.
Mid-sized, yeah.
On the lake.
Yeah. Right on the lake.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Nice spot.
Did you guys have like paddle boards and kayaks and stuff?
We did,
Yeah.
yeah. All that stuff. Like water sports. They had like a camp boat where we could do skiing and
I was gonna
Whoa.
say, were you guys a
What?
motorized boat camp? This is controversial, apparently, to do water sports or not at a camp.
controversial how?
Because it's dangerous.
No, because
Pollution.
It
what
doesn't support EDI values.
I think it's because there's a lot of camps that are like, oh, you go to camp to be like in the wilderness and to I don't know, have skiing and all these like motorized activities. Apparently, in the camp community, it's controversial.
Wow.
This is what I've heard in my years of camp.
What's the big camp up there? Camp Muskoka? Muskoka
There's
Woods or
Muskoka
something?
Woods, Niue,
Those
OPC.
Muskoka Woods is nuts. I've
Oh
heard.
yeah. Oh my goodness.
I've never been there, but they have like
Every cabin gets their own yacht.
their own boat. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they have a whole like
Circle Square Ranch, gotta step it up, man.
yeah.
We could only afford one camp
One boat.
We had one boat. Yeah.
So each kid got one.
Yeah.
So you're on the fringe of
If
getting
that.
kicked out of the motorized community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're close.
The camp I worked at, I grew up and counseled at like one camp for most of my childhood, but then in nursing school I was like a camp nurse at a different camp, and it like a much bigger camp. And instead of doing like motorized boats and that activities, they got a bunch of like 3-person sailboats. So then they like taught all their kids how to sail,
That's pretty cool.
which is really cool.
That's really cool.
And I'm like, I feel like that's a cool way to go about it. Like just different types of fun winter. Summer
Sailboats are
activities.
interesting because you don't see those a lot
Mm-hmm.
on Canadian lakes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, really fun. I learned how to sail that summer.
Cool.
Anyways, enough about me.
Wow.
Stopper. Let's get into it. So we always start with, what is a piece of scripture that's been most influential in your walk with Christ? Do you have one in mind?
I have a couple in mind that kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
Can I share? Okay.
No.
Yeah, just
Limit of one.
You're limited.
Only if you have it off the dome. No phone.
Okay, I've got it off the dome.
Dang. He's nice.
Psalm 23 has always been very impactful, as it is for like a lot of Christians. It's a short but sweet and very, very kind of dense chapter. And there's a lot in there. But the piece that I guess impacts me a lot is at the end, David writes, he's talking to God, obviously, surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And that first part is always like, I guess, pretty encouraging. And it's pretty straightforward. Like, surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. But for the longest time, I was like, what does it mean for me to dwell in your house forever? Like, what is the house of the Lord? Does that mean I need to be like in one church forever? Or is that a place? Is that like a thing that I need to do? And then from there, my mind goes to Psalm 90, which is a prayer of Moses. And he starts this prayer off with, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. And I feel like that was almost like the answer to that question. It had like, Lord, you have been our dwelling place. Like, where, like, how do you dwell in the house of the Lord? Well, like, we're going through Genesis, for example, in Devos right now. And you can see like the journey of kind of the early fathers and how they're just wandering around everywhere. And they don't have this like set place or set house. They're like wanderers. But the Lord has always been with them and has always like dwelled with them. And I think that's like been really impactful, because it's like I've had a lot of kind of ups and downs in relationships and different churches and things like that. And I feel like I can always hold firm to the fact that the Lord is our dwelling place, and he goes where we go, no matter where we are.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Get him on the preaching team.
Yeah, that was dope. You had the whole dissection too.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And
The cross reference.
the cross reference.
Genuinely
Like, I don't
meaningful.
have it like that.
Wow. That's great. No, it is very true. Like, there's no one building, there's no specific place on earth that like, oh, this is where the Lord's presence can be felt the most. It's like whenever and wherever we seek him, he's there. That's good. Yeah. That's really encouraging. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
That's great. I feel like we can transition that pretty well into just your testimony.
A deep dive into the life of Dan.
Yeah.
A deep dive.
Usually we just kind of start with like family of origin. What was your growing up like? Where did you grow up? Who's in your family? What was like the faith of your family growing up? And then we'll kind of just get into it.
Cool.
Yeah.
A little bit of background. I was born in the UK, and my family moved to Canada when I was 3 years old. So
when you had an accent.
I had an accent.
Did
yeah.
you actually?
Yeah, there's videos of me when I was like 3, 4 singing in a British accent.
Mum.
Yeah, I can't do it anymore. But my dad was a pastor. So the reason we came to Canada was so that he was called to pastor a church here. And so I grew up in that like Christian environment, the typical like pastor's kid. Yeah, that's kind of the background. I grew up in Niagara Falls. That's where we came.
Where in the UK were you born?
Oxford, England.
Nice. Is that where Oxford University is?
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah.
Cool. Who's in your family? Siblings?
I have 3 older sisters and a younger brother.
Wow.
And then my parents.
Cool. Cool. What's kind of the age differences between all you guys?
Eldest sister is 31.
Ooh. Is she?
Maybe 30. And my younger brother is 19.
Okay.
This year.
Wow.
Sometime. June 19th. I know his birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wide range.
It's a pretty big
there
range.
is a big
yeah.
range. So you grew up in a Christian home. You guys moved to Niagara. Did you guys pretty quickly, I mean, your dad started pastoring a church. How was it? Did you grow up in that church like most of your childhood?
Yeah, I did. I'd say until about 2019. And I think there's like a lot to unpack as to why we kind of switched eventually, but my dad doesn't pastor anymore. And so, yeah, I grew up in that church for most of my life.
Yeah. Did you grow up what were your relationships like in school and like in the church, outside the church? What was your overarching memories of growing up?
My overarching memories, like specific relationships or just how I bonded with people?
Yeah.
I've always, I feel like, been, I guess, like a pretty like sensitive person.
I feel that.
Me
Me too.
Yeah. And and I think there's some tough things that come along with that, but also it really helps you form these like really deep and meaningful relationships because when you're able to be vulnerable with people, it invites vulnerability back. And so I feel like I've always been just like a lover, I guess.
You're not a fighter.
Yeah. That's actually funny. When I talk to like people with brothers and stuff, they always talk about how like they're like fighting and picking on each other. Me and my brother never fought, like at all. Aww. Especially physically. Like it would be so weird.
Did you ever try later?
Did I? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like there were times here and there, but I don't know. When you're an older brother, like, and you have a sensitive younger brother too, they just like go to cry to the parents. Everything.
I was this sensitive younger sibling, so I did cry to my parents a lot, but it was because my sister would scratch me. So
bro, my sister would do that. Oh my gosh, it would cheese me.
I know.
Scratching
because it's not like a in the moment pain, but it lingers.
Yeah, it does.
It's toxic.
Yeah, it's toxic. Scratching sucks.
I feel like we should put Dan Soppitt, a lover. Not
I don't know.
So
Unpack that.
Unpack.
Just kidding. Yeah, keep going.
Why do you think you like grew up sensitive? Like, was it something specific as to how your parents raised you?
I don't really know. I think it's always just been a part of my personality. I guess to like paint a bit of a picture, I have always been like a bit of an anxious kid. And like in the second grade, I was diagnosed with a pretty severe separation anxiety from like my parents at the time, because you know that's like the relationship you have then. Yeah. So I just found it really challenging to like be at school all day and without them, and so that was a big part of my childhood, like going through counseling and a bunch of different like doctors to try to figure this out, and like working with the principal so that I wasn't like kicking and screaming when like it was seriously bad. Yeah. Wow. I got over it.
How was going to university?
University was fun. Yeah. That went away like mid-elementary school.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that kind of set the precedent for you building deep relationships, I guess. It's kind of like this.
Yeah, I guess so. Like it's like I yearned for those relationships so much that when I was homeschooled. Let me just say that, in kindergarten, and then I went to public school in grade 1. So for some reason, grade 1 was totally fine. But by the time it got to grade 2, it was like I was in just this new environment with people that like kids that I didn't know, and I was in like public school after I went to a Christian school for a little bit of kindergarten and then was homeschooled for a little bit of it as well. So I think it's just like a big step, and it it touches on just those, like I really wanted to be around people that I loved and that maybe I knew loved me.
Yeah, that is a big change to go to public school, and probably like a lot more people, because Christian schools are a bit smaller sometimes too, and just being like such a little fish in a big pond, even like being so young. I could definitely imagine. Yeah. But then at the same time, I could see how someone with like a separation anxiety, it's like you were saying, a desire to be around people you love and love you. I could see how that would kind of set the stage for you to crave and be good at forming deep relationships, because it's like, okay, all of a sudden now, like, you're one of my people. And like, yeah, I feel like we live in a time of sometimes like superficial friendships and relationships. So I could see, yeah, I could see how at first having separation anxiety would be tough, but I can see also how it would kind of be beneficial in creating relationships too.
Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing is, and I guess this will be kind of uncovered when I share a little bit more about my story.
Mm-hmm.
It also like creates this space that needs to be filled in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so as you get older and you get more responsibility and more freedom, you can go to things that fill this space in your heart, like temporarily, that are ultimately destructive. And so I think that's a big part of my story, like having this like
craving for relationship.
Yeah.
On a deep sense. Yeah, I could totally see that.
When we chatted before this, you kind of went along like the chronological like sequences in your story, and I think one big part was like high school, because it's like the time when you're exposed to so many people you can build relationships with. If you can touch on like what that was like, and even just like the basis of those relationships. And
yeah, just kind of my whole high school journey.
Yeah.
I think it kind of started in grade 8, or my family was going through a lot of kind of stuff on their own, and I just wanted to like grow up. I was really excited to go to like high school because of all the like
things that high school kids do.
That high school kids do, exactly. Yeah.
I'm finally a teenager when I go to
Right?
high school.
Yeah, there's like parties and like all of this like exciting stuff that you just don't see in elementary school. And so me and my buddy we would always just talk about how like, yeah, as soon as we get to high school, we're gonna get jacked, we're gonna go to the gym, we're gonna go to like all these parties and stuff. I really like, speaking about it, I wasn't in a great place at that time, and I had built connections with people who were non-Christian and who like fix their eyes on things like that, like just things to do, like partying and everything. So I got involved with the wrong crowd in high school, and yeah, long story short, grade 9 was a pretty tough year for me. That was when I was exposed to like alcohol for the first time, and I was going to parties, and I was just trying to fill this void, I guess, this like space in my heart that like I longed for these deep relationships, but the friends that I had at the time,
that's what they were doing.
It was the popular crowd, right? So they're not like forming these like crazy deep bonds. They're just doing what the popular crowd does.
Yeah. And it's so weird when you think about like the crowd of people in high school, and they feel like it's the expectation of them that they have to go to all these parties and like have all these crazy stories from them, and you're like, you're friends, but you're not. I know from like a female perspective in that group, it's like you're friends, but you all talk behind each other's back all the time. I don't know if like there's a guy version of that in the, I don't know, popular groups or whatever, but it's like you're
like some form,
like you're friends, but it's on the basis of like you all know you're popular, and that's why you're friends,
and you compete for it.
Right. I think it is a different dynamic in guy relationships, that it's not as much like gossip. I think
Yeah.
girls are like fierce with their words.
Oh, yeah.
And they will like, it's almost worse.
It's
But,
the
like, guys
scratch.
are very.
It's the making
Yeah, the
group
scratch.
chat. It's the like making group chats and specifically not including this one person in the group chat. And it's like such petty. I would just describe it all as petty. But
Right.
how would you describe the male version of that and those relationships? Like, were they fulfilling that void?
No.
I know.
Good
yeah,
answer.
Yeah. Long story short, like, no, they weren't. And I think the basis of, for guys, it's just like a lot more physical. Like I don't know. I think guys, like, I wasn't one to like get in a ton of fights, but I saw a lot of fights when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And guys are just like, are pretty brutal, like face to face, I think. Whereas girls are a lot of like kind of breaking you down from the back end. You know what I mean?
It's very true. Or like, I'm gonna implode all of your relationships by like getting everyone to go on my side so nobody likes you anymore.
Right.
Brutal.
Yeah, it is brutal. And so I think a lot of my relationships in high school, like going through that time, were the foundation was just not. They weren't founded in Christ. They weren't like godly relationships whatsoever. I, like the girls that I dated, I was like sleeping around and like drinking, and I was exposed to like smoking weed, and so that was like just a really big part. And like it's just all of these like different things that like built on each other to try to like fill that deep longing for connection and like genuine relationship, which I just couldn't find.
And it's like so hard to in high school. Like the amount of people that once they're done high school, like never talk to really anyone again.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. And it's such a time in your life that it's like your friends, because you are forced to spend like 8 to 3 together Monday to Friday. So it's like, it's not worth not being friends because it's going to make the time at school painful.
Right.
But also, usually you think about when you're done high school, like, oh yeah, I probably won't be friends with these people again. And you're like, okay with that. But you're just friends now because it's better to be friends than to not.
Yeah.
You know? It's a very weird dynamic for friendship.
It is, for sure.
Yeah, it's like a forced closeness. But I could definitely see how it would not fill any relational void in your life.
Yeah. And I think the deep bonds that I did make in those times, like obviously you're not, like not everything superficial, like you're going to have like these deep chats with people. They weren't lasting. And so it was like these people who I would like form these bonds with, and then it would like break off, and I would feel, I don't know, it was like that going back to grade 2, that like separation anxiety that was like I just got to know about you, and I like we just built this like deeper level of our relationship, but because the foundation was so off and bad, it didn't last.
What was your faith like in high school? Because I know, like, you were saying...
Because you were still going back to camp every summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of ups and downs for sure. Honestly, I think a lot of people relate to this experience, but it felt like I was living like this double life where I would go to church on Sundays. I was a pastor's kid, but my parents and my family were going through a lot of stuff, which probably trickled down to my experience as well. Yeah, I don't know. Every summer that I went to camp, I would form this like amazing, like spiritual high, like deep relationship with God. And then you would go back to the regular school year and you get engaged with like all these like your friends from before that weren't Christian that just don't understand that. And then you drift back. So it was a lot of drifting, I think. And
I feel like a lot of times there's this thought after the spiritual high of camp of like, oh yeah, I can go back to high school and be this light and be in the world but not of the world and be an example. And you're like
100% success rate.
And it's just so much easier for, especially when there's so many people that aren't Christian. Like it's just you're gonna get pulled. Like you're not gonna pull every single person that you have a relationship with out of these things that they're pursuing that aren't of God.
Right. What did God tell like the early Israelites? Like, don't go and live with the Canaanites. Don't
Yeah.
like make you're gonna become like them.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of my best friends to this day, she's actually one of my bridesmaids in the spring, but we like went to camp together and went to high school together and grew up going to school too. And I feel like that was really, really helpful to have like one person that was in like multiple of these aspects of my life that were able to like take these lessons from camp and like apply them together in school. And kind of hold each other accountable as well as we could when we were 15, 16. But yeah, doing that alone, that's rough.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Was it similar? I know you were saying in grade 8, you were just like, oh, like amped up, excited for high school. By the end of high school, were you like, man, I'm done with this. Like, I just want to go to university.
I don't know. High school was weird because I had these like ebbs and flows in my faith of like, I ended up switching to a Christian school like partway through high school.
Okay.
And so that was a cool environment to surround myself with. And it was good for a time, but again, like just so much brokenness in this world, and a lot of the people who went to that school weren't even Christian, and so still this like challenging experience. And then I formed like I dated a girl towards the end of high school who I formed a really, really deep connection with, but I would say it was like an unhealthy dependence that we developed on each other. And especially with COVID, like I graduated high school in 2020.
Yeah.
And so we ended up getting kind of like disconnected.
The super long March break.
The super long March break, exactly. We got like disconnected from our friend groups. And so it was like just us for a long time. And we went to church and we did devos together and we did this stuff. But like behind the scenes, we weren't living that out. We weren't living according to the Bible whatsoever. And it was just this, like, it grew and grew and grew. And I thought it was such like a beautiful thing. And I thought it was so good. But because it wasn't like founded on, again, like the foundation of this relationship, we thought it was Christ, but it definitely wasn't centered around Christ. Got to the point where that relationship ended because it wasn't like a rough ending. We like kind of decided mutually that it was good to stop this, but that put me in a big period of isolation like that, because that was like my deep, that was my person. Exactly. We like,
and with your history of just that separation anxiety and creating this huge void and need for relationship and desire, and it's not good for us to be alone. Like it is a good desire to be around people and to have a partner, and like these are good things, but then when they leave God-sized voids in our heart, it's too big for one person to fill, or it's too big for like mere humans to fill.
Right. So that was second year of university. And so that's where I say like this, I don't know how my like mindset changed. I don't know if I was like super excited to like party in university and stuff, but I definitely like when this relationship ended, that was when I isolated and I started smoking weed a lot, and like all of my roommates were dating people, and so I didn't feel like I had much of a like they were there, but it wasn't like I felt really alone in that like second and third year university, and that was just a really isolating, difficult time. I was going through a lot of stuff. A leader or a prominent mentor in my life at the time from my old church had some things happen, and he had to step down from leadership, and so that was like another of these like deep relationships that I felt like abandoned. I felt like they just left me to dust. And so those like 2 years, I want to say second and third year university, were probably some of the most challenging and isolating years of my life.
And we're at 35 minutes. We haven't even gone to the good stuff yet. No, it's all been good. Seriously, I'm serious.
This guy hasn't said one good thing.
But it's all good. I mean, the arc.
The redemption.
The redemption arc.
It's setting the scene.
How did the Lord kind of like penetrate that void? And like, how did you first feel that call to be like, I am what you need in this time?
It was
like, I'm the relationship.
Yeah.
I'm the void.
So the summer of third year was the most lonely summer I've ever had. I was working downtown at a restaurant, and I was working in the lab that I'm in right now. And I lived alone. All my roommates went home. And so I was in a basement home alone the entire summer. I had some friends around, and I would like hang out with these people. Like I wasn't like super alone, but I felt like deeply alone. Like I didn't have those deep relationships. At the end of the summer, MJ, I forget how we got connected, to be honest.
You came to a gathering, and then you talked to Mike first. And then
Did you
classic.
come alone? Did you come alone to a gathering?
I think so. Probably. Yeah. I didn't.
Yeah. What led you to coming to that gathering? I feel like I have the parts after, but
I have no idea. My roommates went to Lyft.
Yeah.
So like Caleb Bazian, and I lived with like Albie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they were probably like, yo.
Yeah. Somehow I made it out to a Lyft gathering. I was probably really like just in a tough place. I needed something.
I remember Mike. I think I saw you going down for dinner. That's when Mike grabbed me. But then I think you guys ended up talking about sound within like the first 5 minutes of your conversation. And he told me that he's like, yeah, he's gonna join sound. I'm like, nice. Did you ask him to join Simple Church first?
Yeah, classic Mike. So MJ eventually invited me out to Simple Church. I think it started out actually like we just worked out together a few times. Like it was very casual.
Yeah.
Like you weren't. Yeah, the way that you approached it, I didn't feel like I was being. Like it didn't feel like, oh, MJ's like a Simple Church leader and it's his job to like get more and more people in. I felt like he was reaching out to me like as a friend.
Or it's just my mediocre job at being a Simple Church leader.
You were also friends with my roommate Ethan.
Yeah,
and
we had a lot of mutuals.
Like, yeah, exactly. So we kind of knew each other like briefly. So we did a few workouts together, and eventually you invited me out to Simple Church.
Yeah.
That's how I got kind of connected with the Lyft community.
Let's go. Way to go. Good discipling.
Thanks, guys.
This is what you wanted to talk about on the pod. Make it look good.
Finally.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was it this... Did it take a bit for things to settle in terms of like...
Like what was the transition from the point that you were in coming into Lyft to getting integrated into like our Simple Church?
Oh, it was by no means a smooth transition. Like it wasn't this flip. I was a runner. I would like come out to gatherings and then like leave really quick before dinner. And
this guy didn't want the meatballs.
yeah. I didn't go to every huddle at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was skipping out on a lot of those, but yeah, it was definitely a start to like, and I had a lot of friends in my program who I was hanging out with at the time, but they weren't like the best influence. Again, like these friendships rooted in something other than Christ, it just makes it challenging. Not to say those friendships aren't good, but
yeah,
But
totally.
they're different, yeah. And so I think I started to see just the way that we did dinner all the time, and like these people, I felt like people like loved me again, like and I felt like I could love again, like those years of isolation after I broke up, or after me and my girlfriend broke up, were like I it kind of closed me off to, like, I didn't feel like I could love people, because I felt like anytime I would like be vulnerable or pour out to someone, that they were just going to leave, or I was going to be hurt. And so I was very closed off. And I think MJ can probably touch on this a bit, but like it was probably pretty hard, like for that first like little bit of our friendship, to like break open my shell.
Yeah, like you say that, and I think about like some discipleship conversations, but I think what happened at the end of the day was we started out as friends, and like we had a relationship where even if you didn't end up coming to Simple Church, like I was still gonna like, we still on for the workout though, like we still gonna go run with Ethan.
Yeah.
And I think like that was really how God used like God really used that to like integrate you into like our church family. It wasn't like just the like task of being at Simple Church, but like really redeeming that kind of relationship that you like yearn for.
It exposed me to a type of relationship that I hadn't seen in a long time.
Yeah. And how did God use the people around you to then like allow you to hear him in that? Like, how could you hear him saying like come to me? Or like, when is there a specific time that maybe not like or maybe there was an aha moment, or maybe like what was the first time that you were just had the feeling of like I'm home here?
I can't think of a specific time. My life has always been just this like I guess like a tug of war, like this push and pull between like, I know what I grew up as a pastor's kid, like I know the gospel, I know what the Bible says. I know that I'm not living right, but I'm still choosing to do it. And so it was always this like God, like rescue me from this, like in your timing, but I still want to like live my own way kind of thing. And it was just this like, I would get to like quote unquote rock bottom, and then I would like cry out to God, and he would like lift me somehow, and he would encourage me and pull me out of that, and then I would just get right back there. And I think it wasn't until I started like they said, Mike invited me out to sound. It wasn't until I started serving at church where I felt like, I don't want to say useful, but I felt like I had a place and I had something to offer to these people, and I wasn't just like receiving.
Like your
them.
seat was your seat.
Right.
Yeah.
I had something to give, and I had something to provide. And I think that like responsibility was so crucial at just reinforcing the fact that like this is a good family, and like I belong where I'm at because they have this space that I can fill. And it wasn't just like I felt like I was like mooching off of people, but I felt like I was an important piece of the church family.
That's great. Wow. This is so full circle.
I got one more for you.
Yeah.
I kind of just like thought of it now, but when I asked you to apprentice, what were you like thinking at the time? Because I think that, I don't know if it was before we were doing like Living Sent with like Costa and Danny and Eman, or if it was a bit after.
I was in this place where I just wanted to get out of the isolation and the sin that I was in. And so I think I would like have not latched onto anything, but I was like, okay, like I need to, and probably this was God, like again, like reaching out a hand and like pulling me. But I was like, I just need to go all in. Like I need to, like, what are the next steps so that I can like lead a simple church? Because I've seen, I think a lot of like your testimony that you've talked to me about, MJ, where like you go through these like challenging times, but when you step into this thing that God is calling you into, he forms you in that. And it's not like you have to, it's like you don't get clean to go into the shower kind of thing. Like I don't know if that's
There's
the
not,
right
it's
analogy.
not like a prerequisite, but like you realize that you can be formed while becoming a leader. Like you can be, like it is a refining process in itself to becoming a leader. It's not like, okay, I'm now at this point. I mean, there is like certain more like character traits. However, it's like the Lord can form you in the process. Like all he needs is your desire.
Right. And also like the other thing of having people to pour into was something that I was like really lacking. And I had like before had people who I was like mentoring, and it's such a fulfilling thing both to be like poured into by people and also to like out of the overflow that God gives, like lead a group of guys and like help them through struggles that you've personally been through. So I think like so much of this story, like I've been through like the ebbs and the flows, and I've had those like really challenging times of like trying to fill this void in my heart with like anything that I could get my hands on kind of thing. But sorry, where did I start with that? I lost my train of thought.
I think what you were getting at is like, maybe, let me know if I'm just putting words in your mouth, but are you at this point now where you're just like, okay, I realize why I went through what I went through, and now in leadership I can like use everything that the Lord allowed to happen in my life to help me as I pour into other guys who go through similar things.
Yeah, exactly that. And like that being said, I'm not in a place right now where my life is perfect, and I'm still like nobody's gonna get there. Like it's a lifelong kind of sanctification process. But I have these experiences that I've gotten over and that I can help people through. And I have experiences that I'm going through that hopefully the Lord will redeem in His timing, and hopefully they'll kind of show fruit in the future. But it's tough to see that when you're in something like that.
In the middle of it.
Yeah.
We don't have an eternal perspective all the time of our lives, but God does give us a glimpse into His plan for us when we can look back and see the promises He fulfills. And that, I feel like that's a truth that gets like helps through a lot of trials and tribulations. This is great. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah. Hey, thanks guys.
This has been so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think will be such an encouragement to a lot of people's lives. I think there's and really the heart for this podcast is realizing that like there's people that have stories that are just like you. Hence the name of this podcast. Nice. But anyways, it's like everyone's story is valuable but there's a lot of similarities in young adult stories, and just if it can help to be an encouragement to someone who is in the trials that you have been in, or has that similar void that they feel like hasn't been filled yet, an encouragement to take the next step. We can pray that would happen for the listeners of this podcast. Can we kind of round this off by praying for you?
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
How can we pray for you?
Continue to just pray, I guess, that I would be continually sanctified and a good leader for the people that God puts in my life. And again, like only God can fill that God-sized heart or hole in your heart. And so, I pray that I would just keep pressing into that.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha. Jesus, I thank you that you are good, that you're the only good thing that we have, and that is such a joy to proclaim and to profess. And Father, I just thank you for my brother Dan, all the ways in which you have worked in his life and shown him that you are a God who just looks to redeem us back to you. That every time you pull him out of the pit isn't out of obligation, but it's out of so much love that you have for each and every one of us. I pray just for his heart, that hole there that can only be filled by you that he would just let you and invite you in, and that he would know that that's a continuous decision that he has to make each and every day and each and every point in his life, that it's not just a yes at one moment, but it's a continuous one. And I pray that he would make that. And then in the times that he doesn't, as his brothers and his sisters in his church family, God, would we be the ones who remind him of the grace that you constantly give us. And I pray that he would be a leader that does that. That is one that just is so excited to disciple each and every person that you put into his care and pull them out of the pits and remind them of your love and do that time and time again because of how you have just shown us your love. I pray that as he grows as a leader, that he would continue to be one that is vulnerable, one that leads by example, and one that expresses and exemplifies commitment for the sake of your glory, God. And Father, I just pray over what his future holds. He's a smart guy, and God, you know where he ends up. And I pray that in his career discernment, that God, you would bless us with the wisdom of what that looks like, and that it would just glorify you. And I pray over just his life, that in all the decisions that he makes, would he look to maximize the glory that you get and just live for you. In your name, Lord Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, this has been great. Thanks again for coming.
Thanks for having me.
This is so fruitful discussion. Well, thanks guys for tuning in to episode 10, and we'll catch you next time on the Just Like You podcast. Peace on the streets. Bye.